Happy Thursday, almost Friday. The hour of convening has arrived. The Senate will now come to order. At this time, I'd ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. Once again, I have the distinct honor to recognize the chairman from the 53rd, our Rules Chairman.
My mic is low, but it's good now. It's a beautiful day here at our Capitol, and men and women here in the state Senate are ready to go to battle for the people of Georgia. A moment in time, the Super Bowl was held at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta in 1994 and 2000, and will be back soon again. The member from the 7th District told me that it's his favorite day. It's the National Croissant Day, and we know what a classy guy he is. The journal's been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 330 by Senator Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 49 of Fisher Code of Georgia Annotated relating to public assistance so as to provide for a Medicaid public option program to provide health care coverage to individuals.
Appropriations.
Senate Bill 331 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the Fisher Code of Georgia Annotated relating to obscenity and related offenses related to minors generally.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 332 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a bill to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the Fisher Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding obscenity and related offenses so to prohibit.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 333 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a bill to amend Article 6 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Fisher Code of Georgia Annotated relating to programs and protections for children so as to create a prevention program within the Department of Human Services
Urban Affairs.
Senate Bill 334 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd and others, a bill to amend Title 43 of the Fisher Code of Georgia Annotated relating to professions and businesses so as to provide for the licensure and regulation of certified community midwives to provide for a short title.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Resolution 644 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a resolution urging the Georgia Building Authority to provide for certain space within the former state judicial building to be used for the implementation of a workspace wellness program for the General Assembly and state agencies and for other purposes. Senate Resolution 645 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a resolution urging the Georgia Building Authority to provide for a certain space within the former state judicial building to be used for the implementation of a workplace wellness program for the General Assembly and state agencies and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you read reports of standing committees, please? Oh, let me take that back. We need to do House first readers in reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Resolution 977 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others, a resolution recognizing G. Bryant Wright, Jr. and for other purposes. That completes.
We'll send that to Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Rules Chairman's going to be busy. All right, now, will the Secretary read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Retirement Committee has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 26, do pass. Senate Bill 47, do pass. Senate Bill 262, do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted by Senator Black of the 8th District Chair. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Resolution 601, do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Mullis of the 53rd Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for our morning roll call. I'm all out of step today. Mr. Secretary, will you read second readers?
Senate Bill 159 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, motor vehicles and traffic, operation of motorized mobility devices, provide. Senate Bill 295 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others, courts and revenue and taxation, cost of living and general performance-based increases, revise. Senate Bill 296 by Senator Heath of the 31st, funeral directors and embalmers, alternative cremation process, provide. Senate Resolution 538 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others. U.S. Congress pursuing impeachment proceedings against President Donald J. Trump, condemn. Senate Resolution 554 by Senator Unchman of the 45th. Iran protests the hostile actions of the Iranian regime without subjection to violent retaliation. Support the rights of the people of Iran. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Now it's time for roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes the senator from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 9th and the senator from the 7th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 9th and the 7th are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 33rd and 36th.
Without objection, the senators from the 33rd and 36th are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I moved for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 1st.
Without objection, the senator from the 1st is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will now unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional. I'd like to ask that all senators take your seats and cease all audible conversations. I'd like to ask that our doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 2nd to introduce our chaplain of the day and lead us in our pledge.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with which it stands justice for all. And now our Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles of which it stands, with justice and moderation. Greetings, members of this esteemed body. Before I introduce our minister of the day, I would like to first introduce his lovely family, his wife Diane, and his daughter Christina. And this being Savannah Day, I would also like to introduce the mayor of our great city, Savannah, Georgia, Mayor Van Johnson. Our pastor of the day is Pastor Ricky Temple. He is one of America's most innovative and influential leaders. He's straightforward, captivating. He has a message that endears to many. Pastor Ricky Temple serves as senior pastor of Overcoming by Faith Ministry in Savannah, Georgia, a vibrant and community-engaged church where he has faithfully served since 1981. Also, in June 2011 to June 2013, he served as the leading pastor of the Church on the Way in Van Nuys, California, while continuing to serve as senior pastor of Overcoming Faith Ministries in Savannah. Pastor Temple has a strong passion for God, a strong passion for family, a strong passion for community. With his down-home approach, Pastor Temple delivers a refreshing insight that uniquely faces the challenges of the world today. Our pastor today I first met in 1992 at a small church then on East Broad Street. But then he's become a giant, not only in Savannah, but in this world as it relates in spreading Christ's message. Our pastor for today is Pastor Ricky Temple.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I am honored to be here today, and I do honor our senator and all the other senators who gather here today. You know, it's always a joy when you get to talk to people who do what you do, because what you do is hard work, and it should be appreciated. And I wanted to, for a moment, see if I can get you to track with me through the story of a man like you, someone who worked hard in community, someone who sacrificed, and someone who fought the temptation off to get lost in the work. And that's what can happen to you. You can love your work, love your community, and try really hard, and before you know it, it's gotten away from you, and you've gotten a little bit lost in the work. I want to look at a man's name, that man you know well. His name is Solomon. And in the Bible, this is a guy whose life you can divide into three basic seasons. First, his early life. This was a guy who in his 20s wrote the book of Proverbs. Incredibly smart, gifted, talented, incredible insights about everything: family, children, how to honor your father, your mother, insights about business. He was amazing. People traveled for miles to hear his words. He was considered to be the wisest man to ever live. And so at the beginning of his life, you look at him and you say, this is a guy with a future. This is a guy that is going to set the world on fire, and he did. But somewhere between here and there, the world changed. It's not just how you start, it's how you end. You start out with great insight. You're clear about your convictions and your values. But somewhere on the journey in the middle, you change, and he changed. And for him, it began to be about women and parties and drinking and building buildings and fame and notoriety, and he got lost, and he lost himself. Every leader has to ask himself, herself, am I losing me? Am I losing my core convictions, my core values, the things that I believed in? You start out as a really excited parent, but somewhere between here and there, it's not as much fun. Somewhere between here and there, you're not as loving, patient, kind. When you started practicing medicine, you were really engaged with patients, but now let them yell a little longer. If you're not careful, you lose sight. You're not as patient and kind. Solomon lost his way. And so by the end of his life, he had learned some painful lessons. He found out that 1,000 women in his life, that's right, he had 1,700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, how do you get that many? Well, you got to have like 7 weddings a year. That's a lot of weddings. That's a whole lot of will you marry me's, and it's just a lot of weight. But he found out at the end of his life that that was a waste. The longer you live, the more you learn what's a waste of time. In the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, he records his words this way. He said, vanity, vanity, all is vanity, all the buildings, all the stuff, all the fame, all the notoriety. If you lose yourself at the end of the day, and you lose your relationship with God, and you lose your relationship with people, you lose your relationship with yourself, you look in the mirror and you're not who you thought you were anymore, what was it worth? And so as you serve us, as you give us your life, as you give us your time, the question is, are you going to lose yourself while helping us? I hope not. I hope that what you do continues to help us. We need you. But you can't help us if you lose you. One person told a preacher one time, he said, you have 2 things, preacher. You have a horse and a message. If you kill the horse, you can't take the message. At some point in your life, you have to say, I do need to serve the community. I do need to care about those that I'm hired or called to serve. But at the end of the day, it's not just about that. It's really about me. You know, in Solomon's life at the very end, in his later years, it was amazing the summary of his own servants, the people who worked with him. His son Rehoboam took charge, and he met with all the people, and he said, what can I do to get you to serve me and be faithful to me? And they said one thing, don't be so hard. Don't be as hard as your dad. Now that's really sad because you think, well, Solomon's the wisest guy. You know, in his early life he was incredible. In midlife he lost his way. He found his way back, but at the end of his life, the summary was he was hard. What will your kids say when it's over, when your career is finished? What will your wife say? What will your employees say? The joy is to be able to hear them say, he was fair. That's all they wanted from him. They told Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, if you'll just be kind to us and speak kindly to us, we'll serve you for the rest of our lives. Sadly, he chose not to. He chose to be harder than his father and lost everything. Don't lose yourself while serving us. We thank you for your service. I'm honored to be here today to talk to you about your service. And I pray that you would continue to serve us, but don't lose yourself. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Can we pray, please? We come today to honor you because we have come as a people in desperate need. We come to a moment where we need your hand on our lives. The weight we carry, the weight these men and women carry, the weight this country and this state carries is heavy. But I pray for your strength. I pray you give us wisdom, and I pray you unite us. We don't need to be divided. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And so we come in your name thanking you for this opportunity, and we thank you for our future as we fight together to go forward. And everyone say amen. Amen. Thank you for the opportunity.
Are there any unanimous consents? Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th.
Mr. President, pursuant to Senate Rule 3-1.7, I ask for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 330 be withdrawn due to clerical error.
The senator from the 40th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 330 be withdrawn due to a clerical error. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and Senate Bill 330 is withdrawn. All right, now we've got a list of special presentations that we'd like to honor here in this chamber. This time I'd like to ask the Secretary to read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 623 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd, a resolution commending Coach Charlie Smith Jr. and for other purposes. Whereas Charlie Smith Jr. has diligently and conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of his time, talents, and energy to challenge and inspire student athletes, as evidenced dramatically by his 22-year career at Beach High School in Savannah, Georgia, the last 12 years of which he served as head football coach. And whereas, as coach at Beach High School, he won 5 city championships and was twice named Coach of the Year by the Savannah Morning News and the Savannah Quarterback Club. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments of this extraordinary individual be appropriately recognized. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the Coach Charlie Smith Jr. on his efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated work with the student athletes at Beach High School and extend the most sincere best wishes for continued success. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 2nd to introduce our special guest today.
Good morning, members. I stand today with you with recognizing Savannah Day. With the senator from the 1st, we're here to say this is a good day. But today we honor 3 outstanding individuals of community service. And it's not just about Savannah, it's about Georgia, and it's about community service. The first honoree is Mr. Charlie Smith Jr., a renowned native of Georgia, a renowned high school coach, but what is more importantly, he saves lives. In fact, all the honorees today are lifesavers. They're not physicians or nurses, but they change lives and save lives because they address the least of us, the young people, those that are lost and need that direction. We recognize Charlie Smith for 34 years of coaching in the Savannah area. We recognize Detective Ardelia Gibbs, a detective with Savannah Police Department, for faithful service of 20 years, recognizing the ills of Savannah and looking for reasons and looking how to restore order and peace in our community. We recognize Dr. Patricia M. Stewart, a noted educator, changing lives in the classroom, but more importantly, changing lives for Georgians. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Charlie Smith.
At this time, I would like to thank the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary of State for this award. One of the things that I worked on and worked hard for was to make a difference in the lives of young men and females in the city of Savannah and produce productive citizens for the state of Georgia, Savannah, and the United States. Thanks again for this proclamation.
Dr. Stewart.
Thank you. I thank you for this honor, and I thank all the people of Georgia and I thank you for this proclamation. And at 90 and some change, I'm still working toward that kind of justice in the classroom. Thank you.
And before I recognize Detective Gibbs, I'd like to recognize Chatham County Youth Commission that's in the gallery today. Wave your hand. And Savannah Youth Council that's in the gallery today. Thank you for being here. Now we'll introduce Detective Gibbs, the man mission to save lives that's in our galleries. Detective Gibbs.
Thank you for this honor and recognition and award. Thank you.
All right, we have a very special guest with us today, and I'd like to call on the senator from the 14th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I have the privilege of introducing to you a dear friend of mine and a man who left very big shoes for me to fill back in the district when I was elected to replace him. He was elected to Congress in 2014 to represent Congressional District 11. He's an Air Force veteran, a member of Financial Services, and personal to me, a member of the AI Task Force. He's a strong conservative that puts God, family, and career first. He's been happily married to his bride, and like many of us, married way over his head, to Desiree for 37 years. It's with deep respect and devotion that I'm proud to introduce to this chamber my friend, your former colleague, Congressman Barry Loudermilk.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and honor to be back with you today. Governor, thank you for opening the floor. Thank you all for what you're doing. I'll be brief because I know you got a lot of important things to do because what you're doing here is important. And as I look across the chamber, I see a lot of familiar faces. Senator Heath, one of my mentors when I first came in, we go way back. Senator Harbin and I served and worked together on a lot of veterans issues. You have something very special here that we don't have in Washington, D.C., and it's twofold. One is you're able to get some things done. And what you're doing right now is very important. Georgia's strong economy is because of what you were able to do on a bipartisan basis in lowering the taxes and supporting our business and opening jobs. I can tell you Georgia is an envy in Congress. We have a very strong delegation. We work very closely together. And the strength of our state is a model for a lot of other states. When you look across this nation and they look at Georgia and what we're doing is what, now the 6th or 7th year in a row is the best state to do business. Our growing economy, lowest unemployment rate in the history of the state. My home county, Bartow County, again, lowest unemployment rate in the history of the county. When during the recession, when I sat where you are, we had the highest we'd ever had in history. And we've really turned a lot of things around, and that's because of what you were doing. The other aspect of what you have is special is that you can all work together as friends. Even though we differ on policy issues, we can all share a cup of coffee or a hug as Senator James and I did earlier because we're all Georgians. We all serve under the same state. We live in the same state, in the same country, and we all serve the same God who created us all. And that draws us together. What we have in common is much bigger than what we differ on. And you can do that here. The hyperpartisanship in Washington, D.C. has not only brought a stalemate, it is destructive to our country. And until we can figure out how to get over that there, I want you to focus on who you are here and what you're doing, because what you are doing here should be a model for the rest of us. Stand for what you believe in and fight for that intensely. I appreciate that in everyone. But at the end of the day, continue to show the respect for each other that you do here. And that's going to continue to make our state stronger. And as I've always said, everything I do in public service is for three things: to make our nation free, safe, and full of opportunity, because our children and grandchildren deserve that. God bless you. God bless Georgia. God bless America. And good luck with the rest of the session.
We have additional special guests. Mr. Secretary, will you read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 572 by Senator Uncheman of the 45th, a resolution recognizing the Lunar New Year celebration for other purposes. Whereas January 25th, 2020 marks the beginning of the Lunar New Year, which is celebrated in many Asian communities around the world, including the United States and especially Georgia. And whereas the Asian Pacific Islander American community has contributed to the social, cultural, civic, economic, and academic success of the state, and whereas the celebration of the Lunar New Year in the communities throughout Georgia illustrates the state's rich cultural history and commitment to racial, religious, and cultural diversity. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body join Asian Pacific Islander communities throughout the state in celebrating January 25th, 2020 as the beginning of the Lunar New Year, the Year of the Rat, and extend best wishes for a peaceful and prosperous Lunar New Year to all Georgians. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 45th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Governor. It's a great day in Georgia, and it's especially a great day when we are celebrating January 25th, the year 2020, and also the Year of the Rat. It is the beginning of the Lunar New Year, which is celebrated in many Asian communities around the world, and especially in our local areas. Georgia is home to nearly 388,000 Asian and Pacific Islanders. The purpose of this celebration is to illustrate the rich cultural history and to solidify our commitment to racial, religious, and traditions while embracing diversity. Our county in Gwinnett County exemplifies that diversity, not only in Gwinnett, but in the state of Georgia and across the United States. It's our honor, and yesterday we had a great group downstairs on the steps and had many, many photo opportunities and many beautiful costumes, and it's just an honor to welcome all these people here to the state capitol. With us today, we have a delegation, and speaking from the Korean American Association is Chung-hee Park. Ms. Park.
Thank you so much for being here. And the Senator, the Altman, and I want to say to the Koreans, 새해 복 많이 받으세요. Hopefully you get the blessing and support. We were ready to support you, actually Korean community, Chinese community, and the Vienna community. And so thank you so much, to invite us. Thank you. Blessing day. Thank you.
This time we'd like to introduce the doctor of the day, and I'll call on the senator from the 1st to recognize our doctor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor today on Savannah Chatham Day, as you can, if you didn't pick up on that clue already, that to introduce the doctor of the day, Dr. Karen Turner, that I've known for probably 30 years or so, is a board-certified family physician, osteopathic. She's been in private practice, serving a holistic family medicine for over 30 years on the south side in Savannah. She is a member of the St. Joseph's Candler Medical Group. They're here in Savannah, and president of the Georgia Osteopathic Medical Association in 2001, again in 2017, and she's coming back for a third time as president-elect. She is a major member of our medical community, a stalwart for primary care, and I'd like for you to give a warm welcome to our doctor of the day, Dr. Karen Turner.
Thank you so much for allowing me to serve you today and to be able to thank you for all the tireless service that you provide. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and certainly it takes a village to keep a person healthy. If it weren't for a great health care team, that wouldn't be possible. And I would like to remind you that you are also a part of our major healthcare teams. We appreciate everything that you do because it's the teamwork that keeps our Georgians safe and healthy. And I would be remiss if I didn't use the power of this white coat to help you be a little bit more healthy in the future. Senators, you are the master of the handshake. We all know that. But something wicked this way comes, and hopefully it won't leave China. But if it does, you're ground zero with all the handshakes. So I want you to think about the ways that you want to present yourself on the ropes and in your careers. We might have to revisit different ways. Now, you've been taught the hand pump, but that still touches skin to skin. And remember what's happening. The people that you're greeting, achoo, or blowing their nose, or a cough. There it is. It's in that hand and it's in the pump. Now, you may have heard about the elbow rub. To me, that looks like a couple deer rutting. You know, it's a kind of strange. You got to get in a weird position. But you can do a lot of things with your hands. This one, there's this, call you later. There's a lot of things you can do. You have my permission when you're on the ropes to do this one. But the other thing is, maybe you need to have the idea that it can be guilt-free to not touch somebody. And if you need a little help with that guilt, just load your hands with something, a cell phone in one hand and an iPad in the other, and you can juggle and just do a nice nod. But remember, keep yourself safe. We need you. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the next resolution?
Senate Resolution 541 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a resolution recognizing the long and steady friendship between Georgia and Japan as shown by the 46th anniversary of the Office of the State of Georgia in Japan and for other purposes. Whereas the Consulate General of Japan in the Southeast has strengthened the cultural, political, and economic ties between Japan and Georgia and has worked to help support Japanese citizens and companies in the Southeast. And whereas current trade between Japan and Georgia is nearly $12.1 billion in import and export trade. Whereas there are 650 Japanese company affiliated offices now located in Georgia, employing more than 40,000 people. And whereas America's Atlanta, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize the 46th anniversary of the Consulate General of Japan in the Southeast and commend the Consulate General's efforts to strengthen cultural, political, and economic ties between Japan and Georgia. Mr. President, please order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon our good friend, Senator from the 32nd, to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a little crowded up here, and that's because there are so many of us that work with the Japan caucus. And today we're recognizing our new Consul General for Japan, Kazuyuki Takeuchi, and other special guests, including Deputy Consul General Nakamura, Consul Iwase, and former Representative Tom Taylor, who has been instrumental in fostering our relationship with Japan. We're highlighting our special relationship with Japan, which is an important partner in our Georgia economy. Georgia is home to over 650 Japanese companies employing over 40,000 people with an economic impact of $7 billion. On this 46th year of the Office of the State of Georgia in Japan, we have a robust student exchange program as well as a number of Japanese sister cities in our state. As all of you know, Tokyo will be the home of the 2020 Summer Olympic Games, and the whole country is busy making preparations for this gigantic event like we did here in Atlanta in 1996. Japan also has a new emperor, His Majesty Naruhito, 126th in a direct line. He is ushering the Reiwa era, which represents peace and tranquility. I was fortunate, along with some of my colleagues, to be able to visit Japan last fall and was extremely impressed with the country and its people. Many other senators have Japanese countries in their districts, and a group of us have a program for visiting many of these companies. In my district, we have about 30 Japanese companies and about 2,500 employees, and we'll be honoring them this evening with a reception in conjunction with the Cobb Chamber of Commerce. I would ask the Senate members of the Japan Caucus to join me on the steps for a photo, and I will now recognize Consul General Takeuchi for his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much, President. It is a great honor for me to be here today. I would like to thank Senate President Pro Tem Butch Miller, along with Senator Kirkpatrick and Jordan, Gooch, and Morris, who sponsored the resolution, and all other members of the Georgia State Senate. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to the member of Georgia-Japan Caucus, who work hard to deepen a strong relationship between Georgia and Japan. Georgia is the number one state of business in the country with a vibrant, robust economy and boasts 650 Japanese companies that call Georgia home. We will continue to see furthermore to follow. In closing, I would like to reiterate my thanks to each of your excellencies. Over the decade, we are fortunate to have forged not only an alliance but a friendship. Thank you very much, and we look forward to many more years of economic partnership and friendship between Georgia and Japan. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the next resolution?
Senate Resolution 635 by Senator Watson of the 1st and others, a resolution recognizing...
This one doesn't have a resolution. I'll recognize a senator from the 1st to introduce our next special guest here in the chamber today.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to have the Tybee Island Youth Council with us today. They are all come from the Tybee Island Maritime Charter School, which is a public charter school. They are now, all the members here on the podium have graduated out or are all in middle school. It has been a terribly successful Tybee Island Youth Council, and I would like to go ahead and recognize all. There are 3 on the stage, and we have 20. If you would, in the audience, in the gallery, if you would stand from the Tybee Island Youth Council, I'd like to give a warm welcome to you. Thank you. We had our picture with the governor earlier today, and I'm certainly happy to be here on Savannah Chatham Day. They have been an advocacy group. Part of that advocacy has been relating to Highway 80 and Lazaretta Bridge and the Bull River Bridge. They have been a very strong proponent of those, and they are here today learning about government and advocating for that. Having said that, I would like to have Ava here at the podium and say a few words. But before I do that, let me thank Jan Leviner for being an instrument in not only this youth council, but for the Tybee Island Maritime Charter School. Thank you. Ava?
Thank you, Senator Watson. On behalf of Tybee Island Youth Council, we would like to thank you for presenting our resolution on Highway 80, the beach renourishment, and for everything you do for not only Tybee, but Chatham County.
This time I'd like to recognize any senators for a point of personal privilege. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to remember a visionary soul who embodied the values of kindness, inclusion, and wisdom. On this day, January 30th, in 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in his home country of India. He led a singular life of compassion and shunned violence and division as means to achieve his vision for his country and for our world. Gandhi's methods of nonviolent protest became an inspiration to transformative leaders in American political life like Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King. As folks around the world today take pause to remember his lessons and seek to treat others with dignity, I hope that you will join me and remember Mahatma Gandhi and what he stood for and his hopes for our world to come. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I owe you all an apology. You see, it seems that for the last 5, maybe 6 years, I've tried to convince you of the ill wills of gambling, and I have failed miserably. I want to try a different approach, one that's kind of simple. Maybe an image, maybe that might be best. I grew up on a farm like many of you did, and we know that when a cow eats, it processes through the body, and at the end we have manure. And we know what went into creating that manure. And if you're on a farm, you're happy that the cows are healthy, and out of that we get steaks and so on. But none of us want the manure in our driveway, in our front porch, in the area where the kids play. We don't like that manure because it's icky. It smells. You don't step in it. It tracks. In other words, it leaves long effects. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we hear about maybe what the House is doing, or even here in the Senate, and you consider that, think about back home. Think about the constituents you represent and whether or not they want a pile of manure in their backyard. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I yield the well.
Any additional senators wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? The chair sees none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? The chair hears none. The resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 1st for a motion.
I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Friday, January 31, 2020.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the announcements?
Rules is canceled. Joint House Education and Senate Education and Youth will meet in 606 CLOB at 1 p.m. Government Oversight will meet at 125 CAP. at 1 p.m. Higher education is canceled. Finance will meet in Mez 1 at 2 p.m. Joint House and Senate Transportation Committees will meet in 506 CLOB at 2 p.m. Regulated Industries and Utilities will meet in 450 CAP at 3 p.m. Science and Technology is canceled. Judiciary is canceled. Transportation is canceled. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Does any senator have an announcement? Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I just want to remind you there's a notice on the desk inviting you to today's noon lunch in 307 CLOB, and that is the weekly luncheon of the Georgia Working Families Legislative Caucus. We'll be hearing an overview on budgets and related revenue issues by budget analysts from Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. All are welcome. It'll be a delicious meal, and our sponsors are the Metro Atlanta Chamber and the Georgia Early Education Alliance for Ready Students. So you are welcome. Please come by. 307 LOB, Working Families Caucus Luncheon, that begins upon adjournment. Thank you.
The senator from the 1st has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Friday, January 31st, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.